Great to see you here. My name is Luc de Custer, founder of the Custer Academy, and in this video I'm going to talk about the CAPM certification preparation course. CAPM is Certified Associate in Project Management, and it was one of the certificates offered by the Project Management Institute. And in this first video I'm going to talk about the different elements, what you will have to go through in case you want to have a CAPM certification. There's a lot of work to do, but once you finished it, it's a very good certification and it will help you in your career. So what we have here, we have different references here. The main reference is a guide to the project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK, together with the Agile guide, which has been added to it. When you buy them, it's a set of 2. I have a lot of project management courses that you can find on the Custer Academy. They're online courses on thecusteracademy.com. And of course, I also have a YouTube channel called the Custer Academy. You have the link and the QR code that you can select. I also have a number of courses on the Udemy platform under the name the Custer Academy, and you can use those too. They are similar courses, different courses that provide you, let's say, the tools and the techniques, the preparation elements for starting the CAPM course. The CAPM course is a little bit different, and we have to be careful because we are not really doing the tools and the techniques as such. The reference books are the guide to the project management body of knowledge and the Agile guide, which is part of it since that new edition, the 6th edition. What is the course about? Well, it's a preparation for the participants to pass the CAPM exam. It's a preparation specifically towards the exam, and we introduce in this course the concepts defined by the PMI in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Understanding the project management process, the knowledge areas, and linking the processes with the different process steps is an important part of this preparation, and there are a lot of questions related to this. Now, we're also going to learn about the inputs, the tools and the techniques, and the outputs of the different processes. What does this exam test and what not? It does not test your PM experience. It doesn't test your common sense, nor the knowledge of industry practices, of software tools, or your intelligence. What does the exam test? Well, it tests your knowledge of the PMI's processes, your understanding of terms describing the processes, your understanding of the different tools, your ability to apply the processes, to apply key formulas, and also your personal responsibility. There is the guide how a project manager should behave. Now, when you want to pass the exam, we have to look at the different elements that you have to consider. The first question, if you want to pass the exam, you have to ask, why do people fail? Typically, people fail because they didn't prepare it properly. They didn't understand all the processes. There are some calculation examples which are interesting that you have to know. And when you have those, you have to take those into account, that you have to be able to do those calculations. I've had some people failing when they took too much time to look at the questions. You can go through the questions, you can go back, and the best strategy is to go through all the questions as quickly as possible. Answer the questions that you know immediately. Go back to the questions that you flag or the questions that you didn't answer at the first time. So you can go back. When we look at this course, we will teach you about the philosophy of the exam. And we want to prepare you how to successfully pass the exam, to have a passing grade. Now, there are 2 possibilities. We're talking about the CAPM course here. I mentioned here PMP. Well, PMP and CAPM are a little bit different. There are more questions in the PMP exam. They're a little bit different, more interpretation questions. But you have about 4 hours for the PMP exam. If you're interested in the PMP exam, you can look at this. It's also very interesting if you have the experience, but we will talk about that later. The CAPM, you receive 150 exam questions to resolve in 3 hours. And passing is based on sound psychometric testing. Now it means that every question has a certain weight, and you have to have a specific weight in order to pass the course. What are the exam materials? PMBOK is only one of the references for the exam. It's the main one and the agile attachment to it. So it's both of those documents are the main references, but there is a lot more. There is, when you look at the questions, you look at the worldwide selected people who are preparing questions based on existing publications in different fields. Can be planning, resources, organization, communications. Those people are unknown. I met some of them that I understood that they were doing the exams. They didn't tell me, but they had some meeting. I asked them to teach. They cannot teach because, of course, they know the questions. So you can deduct some of the people, and it's based on the knowledge, and they have to find the questions or the answer to the questions in several references. So that's where the exam materials come from. It's basically about the general knowledge of the project management community, and that's quite a lot of books that you can read. The more information you have, the better. Of course, for the CAPM, it's a little bit more straightforward, but there are a lot of elements that you can consider that are important for the exam, certainly when you're going for the PMP exam. Now, what we're going to do here is to help you understand the most important knowledge that you should know for passing this exam. Now, when we look at questions and the process groups, we have the different process groups. We spoke about those before. When you have a course of project management, we have initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, control, closing, and then the responsibility. So typically, this is the spread of the questions over the exam. Now, proportionally is the same when you look at the PMP and the CAPM exams. Now, when we look at the topics, foundations, 19% of the questions, concepts related to the project manager, the environment, and the project management, the project manager. When you look at those, it's typically the first, the second, and the third chapter of the PMBOK. Then we have the 5 process groups where we have 81% of the questions, initiation, planning, executing, monitoring, control, and closing. And there are also questions related to professional and social responsibility. They're mixed through the foundations typically, and the 5 process groups. You may have some questions related to professional and social responsibility. Very important that you understand, because as a certified project manager, you have to comply with the code of ethics. Now, when we look for the PMP, it's a little bit different. I just want to look at it. You have to have a university degree, bachelor or equivalent, 4,500 hours of PM experience and 35 hours of training. You have that with all the courses that you did before. All the other courses count. If you do a PMP specific course, typically that course will provide you those 35 hours. When you don't have a university degree, you need more hours of experience. Now, the difficulty here is when we look at the registration, it's more complex because you have to put all those hours of experience in there. You have to put the references. You can be audited. I had one student who was audited in all the years I've been teaching this, but it can happen. And of course, when you are just on the limit, when they change the PMBOK version, you may be having to do the course again because it may change. Now, once you have that added to the system and your, let's say, application is approved, you can register for the exam. Now, this is a little bit more complex when you are doing the PMP. We're talking about the CAPM. Now, what is very important when you have a high school diploma or equivalent, when you have 1,500 hours of PM experience, you don't need any training. Now, of course, you have to study, you have to prepare for this. You want to have a good result. So basically, even if you don't need the education, the best thing is to do the training. And this training is, in fact, the course I'm talking about. We have at least 23 hours of training. At the end of the course, you get a certificate that you can add to your application. And basically, that's it. You don't have to do anything anymore. That's what the certification is about. you have the certificate, you have finished the course. So the moment you send it there, may be audited, so they will ask me to verify that you finished the course or that you have the certificate of the course, and you can plan the date for your exam. Now that's the way we are going to think about. We're going to do those 23 hours of training to introduce you to the specifics of the PMBOK. Now, when we look at the exam environment, there is a high security exam. I remember my exam. It's typically done in certified exam centers. It's a PC-based exam. It's on Windows. You're isolated in a test cabin, no communications, no PC, no cell phones, only paper, pencil, and a supplied calculator, a simple calculator. So in my case, I had to train a little bit because I was always using the RPN, reverse polar notation calculators from Hewlett and Packard. Now what you see, you have to have simple calculations. They're not really complex. You can make a dump of the formulas when you start, or for me, and before you start with the exam, so you can write the number of things down there. There is monitoring, there is a test proctor, and they have audio and video monitoring. Sometimes I see people on Facebook, they're offering to do the exam for you. You can do today the exam from home. They take over your environment. The problem is that once you have somebody else doing the exam for you, it will be detected for sure. They detect that you did the exam or that you gave it to somebody else, and you will be, let's say, kicked out of the PMI. This is a clear violation of the ethical principles. So that was it for the introduction of this course. That's what we are going to do, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next videos. Thank you, and bye-bye.